Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, boys and girls. Let's go with the lesson. So we're going to complete practice test 5. We're not going to do the exam by itself, but analyze the exam that I already completed before some days ago. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to highlight the possible answers and explain why those are correct. Let's start with the first question. What multicast reserve addressing is assigned to OSPF? So we're going to select this one and this one. Let's look at the explanation about this. It's actually written in Spanish, but the explanation and everything is in English. So we are good to go. Let's look at the explanation here. EIGRP and OSPF are network layer routing protocols that communicates information to neighbors via reserved multicast addressing. Some examples include hello packets and routing updates. All OSPF routers communicate a variety of messages via 224.0.0.5 multicast reserve address. There is also 224.0.0.6 multicast reserve address that is used only when spoke routers send updates to DR and BTR routers. EIGRP is assigned 224.0.0.10 reserve address. However, some routing message types are communicated via unicast. So in this case, we are using the multicast address 224.0.0.6 and the multicast reserve address 224.0.0.5. Those are the ones that we're using only in this case. And the question states, what multicast reserve addressing is assigned to OSPF? We found the correct answers are 224.0.0.5, 224.0.0.6. So let's go with question number 2, and this is the following. What wireless authentication method provides the most user security? In this case, we are going to highlight the correct answer. The correct option is WPA2/802.1x. Let's look at the explanation. Although it's a little bit long, we are just going to look at the box of the comparison at this moment. So we have the different features of security. We have WPA, WPA2, WPA2 PSK, and WPA3. Let's look at the question one more time. So this one says, what wireless authentication method provides the most user security? This is actually theory. In case of a correct answer, we have the WPA2/802.1x. That would be the correct choice. Let's try to find the explanation about that one real quick here. So, Wi-Fi protected access 2. We will be reading only this version because it's the one related to the answer, but you are welcome to review this document and study the rest of the options. The WPA protocol standard is backward compatible with all the versions. This newer standard improves upon the original WPA with advanced encryption and message integrity check. AES-CCMP encryption mode is a single protocol that replaces TKIP for WPA2. There is a support for 802.1x E8P, authentication of user and wireless endpoints. WPA2 is the current standard for all Cisco wireless equipment. The best wireless security for authentication and encryption of wireless clients is WPA2 Cisco. Support WPA2 Enterprise with radio server authentication and AES data encryption. It is currently the best security available for Cisco wireless devices, AES and TKIP are encryption protocols associated with the WPA2 security protocol, and not for authentication. Let's go with the next question. This one says, what are the default OSPF timers on a link with Ethernet interfaces? We're talking about Ethernet, so we're talking about switches. Basically, the timers that we have there, mainly, we can either have switches or not, but the important thing here is that the default timers will be 10 seconds and 40 seconds. 10 seconds for the hello timer and 40 seconds for the dead timer. Let's look at the explanation at this moment. So, OSPF hello timer determines the interval and how often a router sends hello packets to a neighbor. The dead timer is the amount of time before a neighbor is declared down and dropped from the neighbor adjacency table. It is configured to 4 hello packet intervals by default. OSPF timers vary based on the network type assigned to an interface. For example, Ethernet is a broadcast network type with hello timer of 10 seconds and the timer of 40 seconds. That is the requested amount for 4 hello packets. OSPF point-to-point and multi-point network types are assigned the same default timer values. All timers must match only between OSPF directly connected neighbors to form adjacency. Let's look at the following question. Select 2 characteristics of path virtualization. Those will be encapsulation and addressing isolation. Let's look at the explanation. There are common characteristics of all path virtualization overlays, whether data plane or control plane. Overlays create a virtual topology across a physical underlay infrastructure with encapsulation techniques that create tunnels that essentially enables route and address isolation. So overlay can exist within routing domains. Some examples of overlays include VXLAN, LISP, GRE 802.1q, CAPWAP, and VRF. So the main importance here when we are talking about characteristics for path virtualization are the following: encapsulation, route isolation, virtual topology, and address isolation. Let's look at the next question, question number 5. All right, let's go with that. What feature most correctly describe wireless SSID? And the answer is WWAP, WLAN. WLAN will be the correct choice in this case. Let's look at the explanation. Network addressing is a key CCNA topic that extends to wireless infrastructure. The concept of a wireless LAN, WLAN, is defined with a network name called SSID. It advertises an access point presence over a wireless cell to clients. Any wireless clients that are compatible with the access points and know the SSID can associate. There is a single SSID associated to and represents a wireless LAN, WLAN. Multiple access points, AP, can be assigned to same SSID configuration, or WLAN also include radio type, security, and QoS settings. The common practice is to assign a single SSID to a VLAN and a VLAN to a subnet. So we have here the representation of that, and basically the SSIDs for each of the departments here. Let's go with the next question. Question number 6. What is the difference between virtual machines, VM, and containerization? So the virtual machines each have a separate operating system. That would be the correct choice. Let's look at the explanation here. So let me just use the eraser for a little bit and I can change this. Let's change the color to green. The primary differences between virtual machines and containers is virtualization architecture. Each virtual machine packages an application settings and operating system on a physical server. Multiple virtual machines can virtualize server hardware via hypervisor software. As a result, you can deploy multiple different platforms, Windows, Linux, Ubuntu, on a physical server. Containers are virtualized applications that share a host operating system. They do not require a hypervisor and are faster than virtual machines. There is a security with containers when compared with properly configured VMs. What applications are TCP based? So in this case, we are talking about Ansible and Puppet. These are the applications. Now we need to look at the explanation for this one in order to understand what we're talking about here and why are we selected the Puppet option and the Ansible option here. So let's go with the explanation here. A configuration management protocol require TCP connection-oriented transport. This is required for connecting to network devices, perform updates, and terminate the session. What application or network protocol is not UDP-based? That will be CHEF. Some network management applications such as SNMP and syslog are UDP-based since they regularly send operational state information. DHCP is based on requests for addressing and NTP streams, times messages to network devices. The application does not affect network operations if some packages are dropped or data is lost. The same is true of voice and video applications that leverage UDP for network communications. Chef is a management application used for automation of device configuration. As a result, it requires TCP for connection setup, flow control, and connection termination. Also, data must be acknowledged and retransmitted when there is a packet loss. But this one says which application or what application or network protocol is not UDP-based transport. We know for a fact TFTP, SNMP, DHCP, and syslog are UDP-based transport. So the only choice that uses something different, in this case TCP connection, is CHEF. Let's go with the next one. What applications and network protocols are TCP-based? In this case, we are talking about Telnet and SSH. Some applications and network protocols are TCP-based, since they require flow control and retransmission when packet loss occurs. For example, Telnet and SSH require a reliable connection to connect to a network device. That includes connection setup, data retransmission, data transmission, encryption, SSH, and connection termination. There is also HTTP protocol for web-based applications that require connection-oriented communication between host and server. FTP, the file transfer protocol. FTP transfer applications such as FTP is commonly based on TCP to manage and verify downloads are completed. The exception is TFTP that is based on UDP for faster download speed and often used for iOS upgrades. What is the correct format for virtual MAC address? of Ethernet frames assigned to HSRP v2 group 10. So in this case, this is the correct choice. Let's look at the explanation of this one. FHRP applications can be identified based on the virtual MAC address format. HSRP v2 sends virtual MAC address frames with the format of 0000.0z9f. That FXXX, where XXX is a group number in hexadecimal. The correct answer for group 10 is the one we highlighted above, this one. Since 1008 is a hexadecimal value. Refer to the table where features and comparison of common FHRP applications are shown. So we have the first hop redundancy protocol, FHRP, and we have different versions, version 2, version 1. We have VRRP and GLVP, and all of the features related to each of those protocols. Let's continue with the following. What is an example of a type 2 hypervisor? That will be VMware Workstation. We're not going to cover the explanation here because this is more related to the topics that are coming in the new blueprint after the 1.1, but you are welcome to read the explanation about this one. It's basically, let's read the question again. What is an example of a type 2 hypervisor? VMware Workstation. Let's look at the other one. What is the default number of paths that OSPF will load balance packets? That will be 4 equal cost paths. We're going to stop reading the explanations because we want to move faster and complete all of the 40 questions, but you will have this document so you can analyze it and study as much as possible. What is not permitted from your laptop to start initial configuration of wireless controller from GUI? That will be IPv6 address connection. Okay, what wildcard mask is required to enable advertising of 192 and 168.1.0/27 route of to OSPF connected neighbors in area 0? The correct answer will be the network 192 and 168.1.1.0/00031. That's the wildcard mask address, and we will have area 0. In addition to this, you have to remember to study ACLs and network fundamentals, mainly related to subnetting. Remember to study those topics and go over them again, and analyze the explanation later on. Let's go with the next question. Question 15. What correctly describes port assignment for TCP-based application when packets are sent from host to HTTP server? Source port TCP 1024 and destination port 80. Okay, you have the explanation so you can analyze it later. Let's move forward with the next question. How is a root port selected on a switch with default configuration when multiple gigabit interfaces exist to the root bridge? The interface with the lowest port ID will be the right answer in this case. Next one. What statements correctly describe route selection for EIGRP? So let's highlight those and then we will read them. Okay, let's highlight them. The successor route is installed in topology table and routing table. The successor route is best route installed in routing table only. What STP priority is not valid on a Cisco switch? Your correct answer will be 1. Look at the explanation. Mainly, the default priority can be modified to 32,768. And there is the starting value of 4096. Starting with 0 to be valid. The priority must be in increments of 4096, starting with 0 to be valid. So we have all the valid priorities here so you can look at them and analyze them. And this is an example of how we configure the priority in a Cisco switch, spanning -3, VLAN 10, priority 4096. Next question, what is the common characteristics of a spinal leaf architecture for mesh topology? So in this one, the question is like this. What is a common characteristics of spinal leaf architecture for mesh topology? What is the correct addressing for an DHCP server? And this one will be all zeros for the source IP address and all 255s for the destination IP address. That will be the correct addressing for a DHCP discover message. Next one. What OSPF network types can be mismatched on a directly connected link, broadcast and non-broadcast? What iOS command will allow you to verify OSPF reference bandwidth setting on a router? Show IP protocols. What Linux commands are equivalent to Windows ipconfig host command? That will be IP address show and ifconfig. Explanation, Linux skills are becoming more important for Cisco engineers with automation and cloud connectivity. The topic of displaying network settings is included on the new CCNA exam. The command ifconfig is an older, more traditional Linux CLI command that displays interface settings. It has been replaced in newer Linux versions with the IP address show command. Okay, let's look at the following question. What are components of an HTTP request line for an HTTP message? Domain, that will be one of the correct answers. I will try to highlight it one more time if I am able to. Good, if not, all right. So the other one is version and the other one is method. Those are the three components or three related components to HTTP request line for an HTTP message. So we have domain, version, and method. And right down below, you can see the domain, the method, and the version in the components for the HTTP request line regarding the HTTP message. What about the next question? What are two differences between distant vector and link state protocols? Link state protocols send event-triggered routing updates. Link state protocols are classless. You can take a look at the explanation later. What calculated value from source to destination does EIGRP refer to as best path metric in topology table? Visible distance, FD. All right. So the question is, what calculated value from source to destination does EIGRP refer to as best path metric in that topology table? Visible distance, FD. We have the reported distance here, the local distance, and the visible distance. The successor route, best path, is next hop to destination with the lowest visible distance. Okay, let's see if there's an explanation of the visible distance here. Not really mentioning an explanation for that. Just that is the best metric. Okay, let's move forward with the next question. What network services are displayed by default on a Cisco switch? Message timestamps, message sequence numbers. What protocol is responsible for dynamic power negotiation between PoE, switch port, and Cisco IP phone, CDP? How are routes installed in the routing table when OSPF is The only routing protocol and no static route exists. OSPF, a route type, is considered first when multiple routes exist to the same destination. Okay, what services? What services does a wireless controller provide with a centralized architecture, authentication, and association? What data type is not valid for REST API transaction encoded with JSON XML tag? That would be the correct choice. That is not a valid for REST API transaction encoded with JSON. Question 32. What is the order of operation to create a network session from a host computer to a server on a different subnet? So the correct answer is the DHCP discover broadcast, the DNS query, the ARP broadcast, and send data message. That will be the correct choice. All right, let's move forward with the next question. You can look at the explanation later on. What IOS command is not a valid method for modifying OSPF metric calculation on a Cisco router? All right, so interface cost will be the correct answer here. Select 3 data plane network services or protocols. We have network address translation. We have MAC address table lookup and filter access control list, ACLs. Okay. How is the IP address of a TFTP server communicated to host and Cisco IP phones? And the correct answer is DHCP option 150. Let's look at question 36. What is the default QoS service applied to wireless packets? And this will be silver. And let's look at the explanation for this one. Looks interesting. So there are 4 levels of service for QoS. We have Platinum for queue of voice, Gold for the queue of video, Silver queue, the best effort, and then the Bronze queue, the background. In this case, when we're talking about wireless packets, we're talking about Silver, the Wi-Fi multimedia 802, the 1E standard classifies traffic using categories according to traffic. And the main idea here is that the Cisco wireless infrastructure is using a priority of Silver, a priority 3 here. In this case, the Silver will be the correct QoS service applied to wireless packets. Next question says, the global routing table has routes installed from EIGRP, OSPF, and BGP to the same destination. What route is selected based on Cisco route selection algorithm? Routes with the longest prefix match. That would be the correct answer. All right, let's look at this explanation. The router with the installed longest prefix match length, that will be the rule that we're applying here. So in order to determine the best selection path, we are using the route with the longest prefix match. Okay. What is a RSSI within an RF cell? The correct answer will be signal strength that wireless clients detects. The primary metrics used to measure RF signal within a wireless cell include SNR, RSSI, and EIGRP. Question 39. What is the purpose of RSVP, RPVST, Rapid Prevalence Spanning Tree. What is the purpose of RPVST plus within a switching domain? Your correct answer will be eliminate MAC address table instability. That would be the first choice. And the second choice will be lower conversions time when a topology change occurs. Okay, the purpose of rapid PVST is to eliminate layer 2 topology loops and MAC address instability. Lower the convergence time when a topology change occurs. That is basically the answer. Let's look at the last one. What is the order of operation for wireless controller configuration based on a GUI method? The correct answer will be management interface, WLAN, SSID, and radius. Radius. So remember this correct order. When we're talking about operation for wireless controller, we will have to first configure the management interface, then the WLAN, then the SSID, and finally the radius. All right, so I will share these documents and exams with you guys so you can study this way. This is the way that I was proposing for people that were starting with the Mac OS and the Linux system. And that is basically what I have for you guys until now. Take care, guys. It's been a pleasure.